between themselves that they were looking for an insurance policy, and Strzok in particular had forsworn his dying opposition. He was one of the early members of the resistance to the Trump administration, working under the colors of the FBI. Greg, your thoughts?
Well, these are the court documents today, and they are rich with evidence of corruption on the part of the FBI and to some extent the Department of Justice. They admit in the 302 document that the FBI agents
and the 302
well, the 302 is a summary by the FBI of an interview. They admit that Flynn told the truth. So the question that Judge Emmett Sullivan should have on Tuesday is, Mr. Mueller, why are you prosecuting? Why did you charge a guy who your own agents interviewed and determined told the truth? And then I think if I were the judge, I would turn to General Flynn and say, General Flynn, why did you plead guilty to something you didn't do? Were you coerced? Was your son threatened by these special counsel operators over here at the other table?
How about why did the FBI director acknowledge, as he acknowledges, send over two agents thwarting what is policy, procedure, and the legal demand for representation for a formal interview? It wasn't just a little trek across town to the White House.
Well, you called Comey cute. I'd call him cunning and corrupt, and also a liar. This is
cute as Texas for all.
Yeah, I mean, this document here shows that he deceived the acting attorney general and didn't tell her about what he was doing with the interview with Flynn until it was too late. And then when she found out about it, she was angry. This is in the documents today. Comey deserved to be fired 100 times over for 100 acts of misfeasance and malfeasance. But the important point that Cleta is making here, there was no legal basis for the FBI to even interview Michael Flynn. It's not a crime to talk to the Russian ambassador during a transition.
I want to follow up with Cleta, where you took us back to the beginning, and that is the surveillance of the White House staff, the incoming administration, and in particular, General Flynn. There's been no accountability. No one has been held to account in the Obama administration for what was clearly an unprecedented surveillance of political opposition and the succeeding candidate in a presidential election. This is outrageous, and you don't see it anywhere in the Washington Post, the New York Times, CBS News, NBC News. This is outrageous.
It's completely outrageous, but here's what you did see in the New York Times and the Washington Post and all of those places. Remember when President Trump said back during the spring of 2017, when he told the American people, in part based on what Devin Nunes had learned and
the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee.
That's right, and remember the left went crazy, and he had to step aside for a few months while there was an ethics investigation because Devin Nunes told the truth. He was ultimately exonerated. But remember,
I think there's another issue in that as well. The House leadership
remember when the
was
president
absolutely
said,
aligned with those Democrats.
But remember when the president said to the American people that his campaign had been under surveillance by the Obama administration.
Been wiretapped,
and
was his
all
word.
of those newspapers, the headlines, go back and look at it.
I can remember now the mockery, the snark in their tone.
They said, with no evidence, the president says without evidence that his campaign was under surveillance. Honestly, you ought to Google sometime how many times there are headlines that quote the president, and then in the headline or the first paragraph it says without evidence, without any facts. They dispute what he says the moment it comes out of his mouth.
And this president has been fighting this battle alone. And I think every American needs to understand that. Not with the assistance, the support, the help, the strategic assistance and thoughts of either the leaders of either the House or the Senate.
Right.
This president fighting alone. And it's time that that change.
Well, and he's fighting individuals in his own department now as well who want to hide the evidence and obstruct Congress. I wish the president would declassify.
Wait a minute, what do you mean, and obstruct Congress?
Well, Rod Rosenstein is refusing to hand over documents to Congress. For example, in here, the FBI agent with Peter Strzok, they are redacting his name. We know who he is, Joe Pientka. And Rosenstein refuses to allow that individual to testify before Congress.
We've known this throughout. We've known this throughout. This president knows it. He is the one who wanted to fire Rosenstein. He is the one who chose not to.
Right.
For his own reasons. He is the one who has chosen, Cleta, not to release those documents, those FISA documents that are at the foundation of much that is going on. We'll have to figure.
Yes, but
we'll have to figure out the rest of that. I'm sorry, Cleta, we're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay,
both.
sorry.
Appreciate it, Greg.
pleasure.
Cleta.
All right. Thanks.
And